Welcome to Pay What You Can Writing Webinars by yours truly, Paul Lima. Today's webinar is how to write a nonfiction book in 60 days. The recommended payment is $20. However, you can pay more or less, pay what you can, at paullima.com/PWYC. The workshop fee includes the PowerPoint. If you're unable to download the PowerPoint from whatever platform you're watching this on, please email paullima.com, PAULLIMA.com, @gmail.com, with the subject line PPT 60 days. I will email you a PDF of the PowerPoint that you're seeing right now. The PDF can be opened on almost any computing device. Easier to open a PDF than it is a PowerPoint. So the PowerPoint or the PDF of the PowerPoint is included with your webinar Pay What You Can fee. Before we begin, let me tell you very briefly a bit about me. I've been a professional writer for over 35 years. Since 1990, I've worked as a freelance business writer and writing trainer. Most of my training is business and promotional writing. I have also written and self-published 20 books on business writing, promotional writing, and the business of freelance writing. I've written each of the books in 30, 60, or 90 days, hence the workshop. And I'll give you a little bit more about the title in a moment. Anyway, you can read more about me if interested on my website, paullima.com. So today's agenda: why 60 days? What does it take to write a book? Before you begin, a couple of topics. Prewriting Exercise 1 and 2. The benefits of outlining. Outlining is key to writing your book in 60 days. Going from something called clustering to table of contents. Going from clustering to your outline. A little bit about writing once you've written the book, and some book marketing tools. So I'm sure you're thinking, why 60 days? This workshop could have been titled, How to Write a Nonfiction Book in 30, 60, or 90 Days. 90 days felt too long, 30 days didn't seem feasible, 60 days felt just right. As you will see, it can literally take you 1 or 2 days to write a book, never mind 60 days. But we have pre-writing work to do to get to that point where you can write your book in a couple of days. And we need to take time to eat, eliminate, shower, and sleep. So we've picked 60 days. I've written books in fewer than 60 days. I've written them in 60 days. I've written them in 90 days. But 60 days is about right in terms of writing the book. That includes not your research, but pre-writing work that you need to do so that you can then write the book effectively and efficiently. So to write any book, it takes an idea. What are you writing about? What's the topic or the subject matter? It takes purpose. Why are you writing? And more importantly, why is your reader reading, and why will they want to read your book? It takes knowledge of your reader. Who is your target reader? What do they know? What don't they know? And what do they need to know? That's what you deliver, what your reader needs to know. So the question is, can you write a book in 60 days? You can if you devote 3 to 4 hours a day to writing your book. If you devote 3 or 4 hours to a week to writing the book, it will take you 60 weeks or 60 working days. Again, that time doesn't include any research that you have to do, and the time may vary based on the length of your book. But 60 days is a good target. It's something that I've done, people I've taught workshops to, it's something they have then done as well. So before you begin to write your book, you need to know your book genre. Are you writing an autobiography, biography, memoir? Are you writing a guide or travelogue, literary criticism, a manual, self-help book, how-to book, philosophy, history, science, geography, a textbook, and so on? you need to know the genre you're writing. You need to take a little bit of time to do some reflection. And I suggest you examine thematically related books. Look at the content and structure, the topics, the chapters, how the book begins, progresses, and ends. I'm not suggesting that you copy what other writers are doing. I am suggesting you learn from their format how to format your book. You learn from the way they've structured the book, how to structure your book. It may be similar, it may be different, but look at thematically related books in order to learn what to do with your book. Determine the scope of your book. How long should it be? Should it be 50 pages, 100 pages, 150, or longer? It all depends on what you want the reader to achieve. And finally, write a working title. The working title will encapsulate your book subject and your target audience, as we will see. A bit more on that in a couple of minutes. Before you start to write your book, you should understand the writing process, the process you go through to write a book. Preparation. Establish your topic and purpose. First thing you do. What are you writing about? Why are you writing about it? Define and assess your audience. Who are you writing for? Determine the detail or scope required to achieve the purpose that you have outlined. Research. If you're a subject matter expert, you may do internal research. If you need to add to your knowledge base, you will do external research, or a combination of both. But only you can determine your research based on what you know, don't know, and what you want to convey. Then you get organized, and that's really what this workshop is about. You prepare a detailed outline to ensure your writing unfolds chapter by chapter in a logical manner, and we will spend time on how to outline your book. Once your book is outlined, you write from outline point to outline point. You expand your points into sentences, paragraphs, sections, and chapters. Finally, you revise. You revise to ensure your writing is as clear, concise, and focused as possible, and to ensure it supports your purpose. Also, you check spelling and grammar. Perhaps you bring somebody in to help you at that point if, like me, you're not a very good editor. Again, before you begin to write, there's some things you need to think about. Your target audience, or target market, as advertisers call them. Who are you writing for? You'll be targeting your readers based on their interests and/or demographics, age, gender, income. So you need to think about that. What is my reader interested in? Why are they interested in this topic? And also, are they male, female, both? Are they children, middle-aged, older people? Are they rich? Are they poor? Are they middle income? You need to think about your audience, and you need to make sure you're writing for that audience. If you try to be everything to everybody, you will be nothing to nobody. To increase your chance of writing and publishing success, target your audience. Define your audience before you write. Nonfiction, define your subject and your audience in your title and subtitle of the book. Let me show you a couple of examples. How to write a nonfiction book in 60 days, one of the books I've written, versus Rediscover the Joy of Creative Writing. You see how my topic is defined and my audience is defined too. Yes, I want to write a nonfiction book. No, I don't want to do creative writing, or vice versa. Excel for beginners versus Advanced Excel for power users. I've never created a spreadsheet. I need Excel for beginners. I've been using Excel for 3 or 4 years. Let me learn how to really harness the power of Excel. Europe on $25 a day versus luxury European vacations. Topic clearly defined, and the user can see him or herself in your title. I don't have much money, but I want to go to Europe. I'll get the $25 a day book. I'm rich. Money is no objective. I'm going to get the luxury European vacations book. Traveling by train in India versus how I found enlightenment in India. Do you see how the title tells the reader this is what the book is about and gets the reader saying, oh, this is what I'm interested in. The Six-Figure Freelancer. Now notice the subtitle, and I suggest you think of a title and subtitle for most nonfiction books. The Six-Figure Freelancer, How to Find, Price, and Manage Corporate Writing Assignments. Versus Business of Freelance Writing, How to Develop Article Ideas and Sell them to Newspapers and Magazines. Two completely different types of writers. Book A appeals to people who want to write for the corporate market. Book B appeals to people who want to write for newspapers and magazines. So come up with a title for your book that presents the topic, the subject matter of the book, and clearly defines the target audience. That is your anchor. A couple of other things you do. Brainstorm or get organized. Jot down the book topic. What's this book about? This helps keep you focused. Book purpose. Why are you writing? Why should your target market read? Imagine somebody who is in your target market asking you, what's in it for me? Answer that question. What's in it for me, the reader? And of course, you target your reader. What does the reader know? Doesn't the reader know? What does the reader need to know? Jot these down in a file, point form. They help keep you focused, help get you on track. And that's something you want to be, is focused and on track when you're writing your book. Again, brainstorming. Answer the following questions. Where do you start your book? Why? What's your opening paragraph, sentence, chapter about? Where do you go next? And then, and then, and then, and then, and then. So literally think about this. Jot it down in rough form. We're going to do some brainstorming exercises that will help you make this more concrete, but it doesn't hurt to spend a little bit of time brainstorming, getting organized before you do the exercises. Now I'm going to show you a couple of pre-writing exercises. The first one isn't really related to writing your book, but it's something I think any writer should do. It's called free fall, undirected free fall, or stream of consciousness. What I want you to do is write for about 5 to 10 minutes without editing, without stopping. As I'm talking, there is a stream of consciousness or thoughts going through your mind. What I want you to do is tap into them and simply write them down. Just write for 5 or 10 minutes, stream of consciousness, don't edit. You'll find that writing without editing is the best way to write your book after we've outlined it. So I want you to experience it. So take 5 minutes and do a stream of consciousness or undirected free fall. If you can pause the workshop, do it now, come back, and carry on. Those of you who are able to pause the workshop, welcome back. For the rest of you, we're just carrying on. Pre-writing exercise 1, similar to what you did, but it's called directed free fall. It's stream of consciousness with an opening title. I'm going to give you a couple of opening titles, and I want you to use them, jot them down, and write for 5 or 10 minutes. I don't care where it takes you. Again, you're just experiencing the process of writing without editing. So jot down, I looked out the window and thought, and carry on for there, 5 or 10 minutes. Welcome back. Those of you who were able to stop the webinar and do the exercise. If not, then you've got some homework to do, post-webinar work. I want you to try another directed free fall. I'll give you the opening line once again, and you carry on from there for 5 or 10 minutes. Boiling Fred's hat in the pasta sauce, Mary thought, and go. 5 or 10 minutes. Again, welcome back to the webinar, those of you who are able to stop. The rest of you, you've got some homework to do. Now the first one, I looked out the window and thought, the first directed free fall is in first person. And pretty much every nonfiction book is in first person. The second one, Boiling Fred's hat in the pasta sauce, Mary thought, is in third person. That's often used in creative writing, fiction writing. First person can be used when writing fiction, absolutely no problem. But I wanted you to A, experience directed free fall, and B, experience first person versus third person. Okay, we'll carry on. Let's look at what we achieved with Prewriting Exercise 1. You probably wrote about 200 to 250 words in 10 minutes. There are about 25,000 to 50,000 words in a nonfiction book, more or less. So do the math. 25,000 words divided by 200 words per 10-minute chunk equals 125 10-minute chunks, or 21 hours. So there you go. You've written a 25,000 word book in less than a day. 50,000 word book takes you less than 2 days to write. But you need to invest pre-writing time in your book before you write it, hence the 60 days. Those are the exercises we're going to do, the pre-writing time exercises, so that you can literally write your book in a day or 2 days. Now, it may take you a week or 2 weeks because you're only going to write in 2 to 4 hour chunks, but it really shouldn't take you more than 24 to 48 hours to write your book once you've done the pre-writing exercises that I'm going to take you through. So here we go. Prewriting Exercise 2, Clustering. Clustering helps you put down everything you associate with a topic. It sparks themes, ideas, topics related to your book subject matter that you might not have consciously thought of. In other words, it gets stuff that's buried in your mind and helps you get it down on paper. And once you've done that, you will create a detailed chapter by chapter outline before you write your book. Now don't worry, I'm not just going to tell you that and leave you there. We're going to do some clustering, and then I'm going to take you through the outline process. So how do you cluster? You jot down a keyword or phrase in the middle of a blank page. You underline it and circle it. You draw a long dash from your keyword, jot down the first word or phrase that comes to mind, circle it, draw a dash from that word, jot down the next word or phrase that comes to mind, circle it, draw a dash from that word. Repeat until you come to the end of the cluster string. In other words, until your mind goes blank. Return to your keyword, and then you move quickly through it, drawing a dash from your keyword, jotting down the next word that comes to mind, the next word, and you go blank to return to your keyword, and you do it repeatedly. This is called clustering or mind mapping. Now, a picture is worth 1,000 words, so let me show you a cluster of the word clustering. I'll read you a couple of strings, not all of them. Clustering, pre-writing exercises, ideas, information, clustering, grapes, Don Cherry. Don Cherry's nickname is Grapes. Stream of consciousness, he talks without censoring himself. Stream of consciousness is another name for free fall writing without a parachute. Clustering, the word clustering, I came up with a workshop called Writing Without a Parachute, in which I taught people how to cluster and free fall. So I'm not saying everything in my cluster is appropriate to the word clustering. I am saying that clustering, the word clustering, help me come up with ideas so I can write about clustering, teach clustering, and that's what I want you to do, is to learn how to cluster, and then we're going to apply the technique to your book. So what are you going to cluster? I want you to take 5 or 10 minutes, no pressure, no stress, just cluster the word apple. Jot it down, circle it, and cluster it, and see what you come up with. Just an exercise to get you to learn how to cluster. Take 5 or 10 minutes, cluster the word apple. Again, if you can stop the webinar, do so and cluster it. Those of you who were able to stop the webinar, welcome back. The rest of you, we're going to carry on. The next cluster word is me. That's me as in you, not me as in Paul Lima, the workshop leader. I want you to cluster me and come up with all the strings you associate with yourself. Again, 5 or 10 minutes so you can experience clustering. Stop the webinar and do it. If not, make a note of this. You've got some post-webinar homework to do. Welcome back to the webinar. We've got a final clustering exercise to do, and this one is book related. Now, I'd like you to have several sheets of paper, even flip chart paper, because what you're going to cluster now is a keyword or phrase that represents your book topic, your book subject, book idea. So you jot that down and cluster the heck out of it. Your book topic, your book idea. Now before you start, I want you to know that you might initially spend 10 minutes clustering the keyword or phrase that represents your book topic. However, I suggest you get a pad of paper or flip chart sheets and spend a couple of hours repeatedly clustering the keyword or phrase that represents your book topic. In other words, I want you to cluster the heck out of whatever your book is about. I want you to have multiple pages, large flip chart sheets of pages, and I want you to get down on paper everything you associate with your book. We won't stop there, but I'd like you to take at least 10 minutes to cluster your book idea. After the workshop, I would like you to take an hour or so and cluster the heck out of your book idea. So, welcome back, those of you who are able to pause the webinar. What you need to do when you do your full cluster of your workshop idea is review the cluster strings of the keyword that represents your book topic. And in those strings you will find rich subtopics that represent different sections or different chapters of your book. Not every cluster string will become a new chapter, but if you extensively cluster your book idea, and I'm talking about taking a couple of hours and clustering the heck out of it, you will come up with a number of strings that you can use, or words, phrases that represent chapters. You will discard some strings, you will combine other strings, you'll say string A and B belong in the same chapter. But you will come up with a lot of great chapter topics. And as I say, you will discard some of your cluster strings, but that's the way brainstorming works. It gets out of your head everything you associate with the topic, and in this case the topic is your book subject matter or book idea. If you don't cluster it, then it's all sitting in your head, and what do you do with it? How do you get it out? I'm suggesting to you that clustering is the way to get it out. Once you have extensively clustered your book idea, subject matter, you review the cluster and you move from clustering or this right brain activity to jotting down the chapter titles, left brain activity, in the order you think you may write about them. In other words, what you do is you create a table of contents. Now, this may be a rough table of contents, but the table of contents you create will help you create a logical flow to your book. And I'm going to show you a couple of table of contents and then what you can do with it. So review your cluster, right brain, jot down all the chapter titles that are there, put them in logical order. Again, this is just a rough draft, and we're going to see what we do with them. But I just want to show you a couple of cluster topic table of contents. The Accidental Writer, which is my memoir. I have an introduction. Boring Boy, Give a Shout, Beyond Button Sucking. Now you'll look at those and you'll say, well, they don't mean anything to you. They mean a lot to me. Eggheads of 404. That's me doing a painting and not being very good, not being very creative. Me, an editor, Idiot Things I Have Done, The Candy Store Man, Games Daddy Played. You know, it isn't just about games Daddy played, but it's about Daddy. But that is what the topic of the chapter was, the main topic, and then we moved on. Dust Bunnies. You want to know what they're about? You have to read the book. Amusing Myself, My Year Off. Accidental Paid Writer. How I became a writer who made money accidentally. Becoming a freelance writer. Accidental trainer. Accidental dad. Accidental dog lover. Do you see a theme happening here? MS and me. I happen to have MS, or multiple sclerosis, which is harder to say than it is to have. And so I've got a chapter about that. What I miss most, what the MS is causing me to miss, and then my epilogue. So we've got my writer. And if you were to read the book, you would see thematic links between all the chapters and a logical progression. All of this came out of my clustering of me. Now, as I said, I left a lot out. There's a lot that doesn't belong in the memoir, but a lot went into the cluster, formed the chapters, and then I will tell you what you do with the chapter titles in a few minutes. Let me show you another one. Tell your story, how to write memoirs and autobiographies. It's a lot like how to write a nonfiction book in 60 days with the emphasis on memoirs and autobiographies. First thing, I tell the reader, memoir versus autobiography. Then before they write, they need to know the writing process. Before they start writing, they need to know some things. Then they need to know how to structure the memoir and autobiography. So each of these chapter titles, which came out of a cluster, enabled me to create my table of contents, Prewriting Exercises, Brainstorming, and Clustering. Hey, if it sounds familiar, writing a memoir is writing a nonfiction book, so it's very similar to this webinar. Doing research, initial clustering, focus clustering, outlining your book, continuing to outline, writing and editing, sentences, paragraphs, tale of self-publishing, and a little bit about me. So what I want you to do is to produce your table of contents for your book. Why? Once you have your table of contents, you have the words you think each chapter should be called, and you have the logical flow of your chapters, you're going to extensively cluster each table of contents title. It should take many pages per chapter title. Not one page, many pages. In other words, you want to discover every possible point you should write about in each chapter. So if you've got a 10 or 15 chapter book, you're going to cluster 10 or 15 chapter titles. Not in 10 minutes, not in an hour, but over several days. You may only extensively cluster a couple of table of contents titles per day, but your chapters will be ready to write effectively and efficiently once you have clustered and outlined each of them. So cluster the heck out of your table of contents title chapters, and then you're ready to outline each chapter. And once you have an outline, you'll be ready to write about it. Now, once you cluster each table of contents chapter title, you may want to revise the title names based on your cluster. Once you have clustered all your table of contents chapter titles, you may want to revise the flow of the chapters to make it more logical. So you've got your rough table of content, you cluster the heck out of each chapter title, then you make any revisions as may be required. Once you've done that, you're happy with the chapter title names and the order, you're going to cluster the heck out of each chapter title, and you're going to convert your clusters to chapter outlines. This is similar to how you created your table of contents titles, but it's more extensive. We'll look specifically at what you do after I show you on the benefits of outlining, because you're going to convert your table of contents chapter title clusters into detailed outlines. Why do you do that? An outline provides a logical structure. It gives you a detailed roadmap from A to Z, and you want that for each chapter of your book, a detailed roadmap from beginning to end. It ensures all major and minor points are covered. So each chapter you will have all your major and your minor points. This produces greater clarity and focus. It helps you detect errors in logic. So you review your outline and you say, oh, this point should be moved up, this point should be moved down, this point maybe should be moved to another chapter. So you make sure you end up with a detailed logical outline that covers all the major and minor points, and you do that per chapter. Once you've got that done, you've removed the stress of trying to hold on to all you know while writing. In other words, you can write quickly in manageable chunks, and then you can take a break to go for a coffee, to have dinner, to go to bed, and you don't lose your train of thought when you take those breaks because you've got the detailed outline. So when you come back to write, you just pick up from the next outline process. For those of you who write for a living and have managers, also facilitates the approval process if one is required. So you send your manager your outline of the report you need to write. Manager reviews it, moves some points around, gives it back to you, and then you write to an approved outline. Or you may show your outline to friends, family members, business associates, the outline of your book, and have them comment on it as well. So basically, what you do is you convert your chapter clusters to outlines. And here's an example of chapter 1, title of chapter, major point 1, subpoint 1, secondary point A, secondary point B, tertiary point 1, 2, secondary point C, tertiary point 1, 2, 3. And we've got subpoint 2 with secondary and tertiary points, subpoint major point 2, subpoint 1 with secondary and tertiary points, subpoint 2. So in other words, you create these detailed outlines that list your major points, your secondary points, your tertiary points. You are in a great position once you have that done, because you can then write each chapter using directed freefall. You write from outline point to outline point until you write each chapter of your book. If you devote 2 to 4 hours a day to writing in this manner, you'll write a chapter a day. And I highly suggest you do not do any editing until you've completed your book, or at least completed a solid draft of a chapter. I know some people can't help but edit. See, when you edit, you interfere with the actual writing process. So wait until you've completed a chapter, several chapters, or your book before you do any editing. This is not a how to write webinar. In other words, I'm not going to teach you how to write sentences and paragraphs. How each person taking the webinar writes is different in terms of the content, the structure, and style, based on the book topic and the target audience. However, allow me to say this. The more detailed your outline, the more logical the flow of your outline, the easier it will be to write your book chapter by chapter. In other words, as every professional writer knows, you want your outline to be so comprehensive and detailed that it takes you to the point where it is all over but the writing. I've been a professional writer for 35 years. I could not imagine writing anything without an outline, and I have written over 20 books on writing, various aspects of writing, the business freelance writing, my memoir about me and my MS and that. Every book has been outlined comprehensively in a detailed and logical manner so that it's all over but the writing, and then I sit down and write it in 30 days or less. Once you've written the book, once you have a solid first draft based on your detailed outline, you do a substantive edit for content, logic, and overall flow. You proofread or consider hiring a proofreader. Then, once your book is done, you can look for an agent or publisher, or you can self-publish your book using print-on-demand and or ebook publishing. If you're thinking of self-publishing, I have a book, Produce, Price, and Promote Your Self-Published Fiction or Nonfiction Book and Ebook, and you can read about that at paulima.com/books. So what I want you to do is cluster the heck out of your book, create chapter titles, cluster the heck out of each title, create the outlines for your book that flow in a logical manner, and then write your book. And then you can look at editing your book, looking for a publisher, self-publishing, and then once you've done that, you can look at book marketing tools. You can create a website like paulima.com/books. You can blog about your book, publish excerpts from it. You can demonstrate your book topic knowledge in forums where topics that your book is about are discussed. You can comment on events related to your book in social media. Like you can create a Facebook fan page. You can tweet about your book, issues related to your book. LinkedIn, you can focus on you and your book with LinkedIn posts, or look for LinkedIn discussion forums where you can talk about topics related to your book, answers questions on topics related to your book. If you're great at marketing and you know how to create YouTube promotional videos, you can do that. You can embed the videos in your website or blog, tweet about it, etc. You can also create a profile page about you on Amazon. As I mentioned, participate in book topic related discussion forums on LinkedIn. You can find and use book promotion sites. There are several on Facebook. You can issue media releases. Just note the mainstream media tends not to review self-published books, but you can issue media releases, and you can conduct free or paid workshops depending on what you're writing about. You conduct seminars and speaking engagements, and I've done a lot of that based on many of my books. And I'm not going to read you the title of each of my book, but the PowerPoint includes all the titles of my books. You can go to paulima.com/books, and you can see how I use my website to promote my books. So that concludes the webinar. If you feel you receive value from today's webinar, you can pay the suggested workshop fee of $20. If the workshop didn't quite meet your expectations, or if it's a matter of paying for this webinar or eating, feel free to pay what you can. at www.paullima.com/PWYC. That's paullima.com/PWYC. And remember, the workshop fee includes the PowerPoint. If you're unable to download the PowerPoint from whatever outlet you're viewing this on, email paullima.com@gmail.com. That's paullima.com@gmail.com. Include the subject line PPT 60 days, and I'll send you a PDF file that can be opened on almost any computing device. So you'll get a PDF file of this PowerPoint so you can review it. And if you were unable to do the exercises during the webinar, then you can read about the exercises again and do them post-webinar. So again, that was how to write a nonfiction book in 60 days. I hope it motivates you to start the pre-writing work of your nonfiction book. If you get your nonfiction book written in 60 days, even if it takes you 60 weeks because you're only working on it one day a week, let me know at paullima.com@gmail.com how you've done. Thank you for taking today's webinar. Go to paullima.com/PWYC. There may be other webinars listed that may be of interest to you. Thanks. Have a good day.